Your president is watching. America is watching. But more important, God, Father, is watching. Make no mistake, there will be no fuck-ups. Marines around this world would give they left nuts to be where you are. Anybody not want to go? Marines, kill on 3. 1, 2, 3, kill!
The shudder round the world shook the earth with great resound. Lanterns lit, the riders fled to warn the farms and towns. The call to arms united them in grim determination. They vowed to see the eagle born and made their declaration. Honor bound and bred, they stood as one in their defiance. A continental army raised on common man's alliance. For liberty, the fire in the hearts of men did forge, the will to break their shackles free and shape them into swords. I'm a killing machine with a hunger deep. I'll scorch the earth with a mighty shriek and a million full metal jacket teeth. You better believe that when the boot comes down, the blood I spill on the battleground will soak the earth until the wicked drown in the death I deal when the hate comes out. Born to the beating of the drums of war, shaped in the fire and valley floors, made hard in the waters of a beach I tore from the devil's claws in 44. Thunder cracked and the enemy dies when the barrel spits, the fire flies. Aim's on point, they're killing time, and I kill with a heart like Arctic ice.
I am a soldier and I'm marching on.
I am a soldier and I'm marching on.
I am a warrior, this is my song.
I am a warrior and this is my song. My boots are the beat and the rhythm I tread. Shake the ground like a thunderhead. Rain down in a hail of fire and lead like a reverie running through my head. Here we live and die where the eagles scream and the reaper hides. Hell can't stop me, the devil tried, and I killed him twice in 45. Come to the nightmare, come to me. I'll grind your bones into crushing teeth. Serve to the swine that come to feast on the stink of the fear and the
have done for you with our blood and your money. I want you to remember, the sacrifice that these men have made must not be in vain. Damn, it is no fun to say to men that you love, go out and get killed. We've had to say it. And by God, they have gone. And they have won.
Now I live late and I mean to inflict the grief. And the least of me is still out of your reach. The killer machines coming out to feed on the lead and the fire and the gasoline. Bound by the blood of the ones who died, as well as the warriors at my side. Feel no fear, know my pride. For God and country I'll enjoy life. I am a soldier and I'm marching on. I am a warrior is my song. I am the fire, the sword and the gun. I am a warrior and this is my song. A war fighter, I will keep marching on. I am a warrior and this is my song. I am the mighty, a million is one. I am a warrior and this is my song. They stood against an empire born 1,000 years ago. But liberty or death, no less what every last man chose. They fought and died for better lives, uncertain what may come. As lions on the battlefield, till freedom had been won. Though cannonballs and musket rounds, explosions, cold and fire will challenge their resolve, they raise their banner ever higher. And when the dust had settled, and the fighting finally ceased, an eagle lit up from the ash, and to this day flies free.
America. Welcome to Cold War Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Live from the Allegheny National Forest Studio number 2 at Camp Vienna on the banks of the mighty Allegheny River. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. On those banks, keeping guard for our freedoms. Again, I'm your host, Hutch Bailey Jr. Please follow me on Spreaker. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio 22. The email to the program is scrtv@live.com. The Cold War Radio patron hotline, 412-206-6208, in full effect. If you want to catch the show after the live stream, you can catch it every morning at the 405media.com, iHeartRadio, RD Elephant, the Cold War Radio app, free in your app store, YouTube, and just about any place else that hosts podcasts. This is a long-running podcast. It is everywhere. Please use the hashtag Cold War Radio if you're on Twitter. And most importantly, go to SteelCityResistance.com and become a Cold War Radio patron. That will help bring the program to new heights and move it into the future. Catch the research room also at SteelCityResistance.com, the video page, which you got to check tonight. And I'll let you know when it's time to do that. This is the page of the website that has that is home to most of the videos of the audio clips that we grab for the program. If you'd like to write to the show, please write to Cold War Radio, P.O. Box 96022, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15226. ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from the northern neck of Virginia. Let's welcome Jack to the program. Hello, Jack. Come in and sign in, please.
I like that little switch up on the intro. Get the hardcore stuff out of the way first, and then introduce the co-host. I like that.
I thought about it, Jack, and it just seemed unfair to bring you in and then kick you back off and then bring you back in. So I switched it up on the last episode, and it seemed to go pretty good. So I think that's what we're going to do from now on. That's where that came from.
Good. Boy, what a busy day today.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, wow. I was going to go home this morning, but, one of the most frustrating things is when you want to cut the grass and it's too wet. And it's going to rain next Tuesday, supposedly. And I'm having a bunch of people up here at the end of next week. So I have to get it cut. So I said, all right, I'm going to stay up here another day. It didn't get dry enough today. I'm hoping tomorrow it will.
It's got to be dry. Ain't nothing worse than mowing a wet lawn.
Especially mine, because I have to do some more landscaping. I need some more topsoil. I got a couple low-lying areas that are really a pain, but nobody wants to hear about that.
Right, you're still using those sickle mowers, right? The rotary blades, and you push it.
I have a pack of dogs that pulls it.
I got
you. Little PETA action. All right, let me go to the email. I asked if anybody's listening to the podcast. I don't get to interact with you guys too often, so I'd love if you sent me an email, and I got a taker on that, and I'm going to read it. I love your stories, folks. I do. I am a 62-year-old lady in Tennessee. Found you on RSBN when Wayne Dupree was there. Followed you ever since. My work schedule means I can't listen live, but I do use your app. I was born in East Ohio near Wheeling, West Virginia. Place very near and dear to me. I have that coal miner blue Democrat upbringing. Moved to Texas in 77 and learned the joy of independent spirit, LOL. I am long divorced and bucks are tight. Maybe I can donate one day. I so enjoy your show. Just call me 10 Bell. And 10 Bell, thank you so much, and don't you ever worry about not being able to donate. And that goes to everybody listening to this program at all times. If you can, I will be extremely humbled, as will my co-hosts and staff, but never, ever feel guilty for going outside of your means. I would never ask that. It kind of hurts me every time I see a current patron after I make a call for new patrons. My current patrons always feel like they have to go and up the ante a little bit, and that makes me feel bad. But I thank you very much for doing that. And 10 Bell, I thank you for writing to SCRTV at live.com. If you're listening to the podcast, good.
Yeah, that's amazing. And how many times have you heard over the last, since President Trump was elected, how many people were former lifelong Democrats that have left the party, or the party has left them? And here it is. Your coal miner blue dog Dems, coal mines up in West Virginia, that whole region. I mean, I just moved down out of Luray, which is pretty close to that region, and the party has left them, and they're searching for a new place to reside, and a lot of them are finding it comfortable to sit where the president sits.
Well, I'll tell you, Jack, if the president does not win all 50 states and a huge majority of the popular vote, there's a whole lot of people in this country that are confused as hell. I mean, the Democrat Party didn't just turn against this fine woman in Tennessee, now in Texas. They've turned against the nation, as we're going to talk about tonight. I mean, they have completely made the choice, basically, between Mexico and the United States. You've got the DNC, Perez, in Mexico campaigning.
Fundraising. How is that legal? It probably isn't, is it?
It shouldn't be, if it is. And anybody that's American, especially, and you notice a lot of these leftists don't have children for whatever reason. Climate change, mostly. That, and they're so dead. That, and they don't shave under their arms. But, but other than that, I mean, if you have kids and you see a political party that is going to subsidize housing in New York City and you can't find an apartment, or your kids can't find an apartment, think about that, man.
It's one thing to promise everybody free stuff, but it's another thing trying to come up with how you're going to provide these items for free. Somebody's paying for it somewhere down the line, right?
Right. And why would you provide anything free to somebody that's, how do they say it in San Francisco, Justice Department involved?
The new categorization. Yeah. It's a hand up, not hand out. I mean, that's what, from when I was raised, and it usually was local church based relief for families that suddenly got struck, like maybe the father figure was injured and had to be out of work for a year because he's recovering, or maybe the father just took off, and left a single mother with children. Usually they go to the church, and the church would help and lift up until that family found its strong footing and got itself back on its feet. It wasn't nothing that, hey, we're going to take care of you the rest of your life.
Right, and it was more surgical. The pastor came out either during the service or a private mailing or something of that nature, and appealed to the congregation to bring, and then they would describe the type of items that this family needed. Like sweaters for a 7 or 8 year old girl, and meat and things like that, non-perishable goods, and they would deliver a box to this family or a truckload or whatever. It wasn't money. I mean, these Democrats, they want to throw money at everything, and I'm a firm believer that our food relief ought to be food, not credit cards. Which is basically
credit cards.
Which is basically what it is now. I mean, if you're street smart and you know what's going on, that card is as good as gold, and it doesn't have to be food. And a lot of times when I'm listening to commercials, and I still don't believe them, but when I hear that 6 in 10 children are going hungry today, that means that 6 of 10 food stamp holders are buying crack with their food stamps, or something, because
smokes or liquor or whatever they can get away with. And we know that when there's a glitch in the electronic card system, we saw what happened with that. It was a madhouse. Remember that?
I do.
Shopping carts full of TVs and boom, 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 and then.
And you look at the Department of Agriculture. I don't know how we are going so far off the rails here, but I like that. You look at the Department of Agriculture, and what is it, like 85% of their budget is food stamps. And then you look at the lobbyists for Coca-Cola and Pepsi and Doritos and all the junk foods and everything. You can buy anything with that damn card now. It's not limited to nutrition. It's anything, man. It's all, anything goes. I mean, it's horrible. Now, I want to get something before our guest in here. I played the intro music, and I have been for years now, and basically the reason for that is our men need to stand up. We need to get a little bit less fragile in this country. A lot of people that are as old as I am remember when China wasn't a pimple on the economy's butt, right? They were still rickshaw running people. And we finally have a president that is realized, and make no mistake, not to sound like a Democrat, but make no mistake, Donald Trump has been railing against the Chinese unfair trade practices, accepted by this country for 20 or 30 years. This is not something he just thought of. He's been in the game, in the arena, and understands Why can't I buy an air conditioner from Indiana when I want 700 of them for this building? I have to go and get these offshoots from China or Korea or wherever. Starting on October 1st, the $250 billion of goods and products from China, currently being taxed at 25%, will be taxed at 30%, Trump wrote on Twitter. Additionally, the remaining $300 billion of goods and products from China that was being taxed from September 1st at 10% will now be taxed at 15%. And the rhinos are going stupid, Jack, and of course the Democrats are too. And my message,
out, right?
Yeah,
Chicken Little syndrome.
Well, my message, and I want to get your opinion on it, is that it's not called a trade war for nothing. And guess what? We just started fighting back. They've been at war with us for 20 years. And the Republicans were complicit in the whole thing. And finally, we have somebody fighting back. And just what's going to happen is that stuff at Walmart is going to start getting more expensive. Now, this country is willing to sacrifice its own people. Can you imagine trying to feed 1 billion people? They have to get their soybeans from us. But if they don't want to, all right, no problem. Then maybe it's time for U.S. farmers to regroup and to look at what products will sell in the international market. If you cannot manage your profits by selling to the U.S. market, you guys are going to have to adjust. You know, don't keep crying for China, China, China. Don't worry about China. This is a time right now for American manufacturers with a set of cojones to chop out some material, an area of commerce that you have been robbed of for the last 40 years. Your thoughts?
It's time. I loved what the president did because it was in response to what happened today. It was strategic on the part of the president, his response, but it was strategic on the part of the Chinese to pull what they pulled, because if you noticed this morning, it was the Fed was coming out with an announcement, and obviously it really pissed the president off because he fired back at him. But at the same time, the Chinese decided, hey, this is a good time. Friday, we're going to put $75 billion of tariffs on American goods. Well, President Trump woke up and had his breakfast and started reading this, and he had a tweet early expecting something positive from the Fed, from Powell. If you look at his tweet line, the very first thing, it was kind of positive. But then when Powell did what he did, basically just status quo, not making a move one way or another, which puts a negative, or as President Trump says, it puts him in a bind because he can't do what he wants to do. Then China compounds it by doing the $75 billion in tariffs. That's it. The knack is down. That plate is thrown across. He goes, all right, they want to play these games. Let's play these games. And that's when he came out and did this. I loved it when he actually said, who is worse enemy, Powell or Chairman Xi of China?
And there's no question.
He's calling them out. I mean, I'm a longtime follower of former Congressman Ron Paul, who wanted to audit the Fed. Why is the Fed there? It's not something that was put in by the Constitution or anything. Somehow in the dark of the night, the bankers and got together with whoever down at Jekyll Island, and next thing you know, they're in charge of what? Our monetary policy?
Yeah, and it's a private group that's not. They're not accountable to anyone.
The bankers. And see what President Trump's doing with this. I mean, they always talk about the market, the market, the market. President Trump could care less about the market. He wants it to look good or to be good because it helps with 401ks, and it also appeases those select individuals that massively profit over a large stock market. What he's trying to do is make it better for the rank and file, the regular, hardworking Americans that want that don't want to be billionaires. You know,
And
I just want.
I know that you follow the conservative treehouse as I do,
Yes.
and I've learned so much about the economy from them, or actually from Sundance. I'd love to meet that person at some point. I don't even know if he's male or female, but
It's a tough thing to follow all the nooks and crannies. Of
I
it,
can't
you know?
do it.
But
I can't do it. I can't get totally in. I mean, this guy, ladies and gentlemen, writes 75-page essays and goes down 16 different routes, and everything's footnoted, and it's amazing. But one thing that I did pull out of it is that what the president is doing is he's shifting the economy. See, we had a booming economy before President Trump. The only thing is, it was eliminating the American middle class. It was enriching people that own corporations and companies that were offshoring their labor to slave labor places like China. And this is what you continually heard from the left, is the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, and the divide just keeps getting bigger. But guess what? They continued to make that happen. They were talking out of the side of their neck, and you had people like Pat Toomey and Justin Amash and damn near every Republican in Congress helping them and getting paid off down the line when they left office.
And when they talk about farmers, they were doing the exact same thing to the
Sure.
farm. You look at the mega farms right now, and you look at how the fiscal policy of the past 30, 35 years of what was passed in Congress, along with regulations and all that's choked out and basically just destroyed small family farms. That anytime the patriarchy or the person owned it, passed on, the farm would be nickeled and dimed out of existence.
Or either sold to Monsanto.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You got the mega farm. You look out in the Midwest, there's tons of these mega farms where there's basically, I mean, automated planters, harvesters, watering thing. I mean, massive. These are the people that people on CNN are trying to say you need to cry about these farmers, not those farmers.
Right.
You talk about local farmers, the ones that provide food to your farmers markets and all that. There's still those are those people that live and die by what's produced out of their soil. These aren't the ones forcing GMO crops down, GMO seeds down into the food chain, all this stuff. This is what we're trying to save. That's what President Trump's trying to save, is just.
And I don't have necessarily, I'm not somebody who's going to go against science completely. I know there's some probably practices that go on, but, you know, when you look at the science in agriculture, it has basically saved the world from starvation, if you think about it, with insecticides and things like that. I mean, there used to be years where entire segments of the world population would go hungry because of a crop failure. But I do understand that there are limitations and things like that. And I think that, you know, back in the day when family farming was profitable, it would get passed along from generation to generation. But when you do this the way it is now, I mean, there's no money in it. I heard somewhere, and I can't remember the exact age because this was a while ago, but the average age of the family farmer in the United States is like 67. It's not sustainable. I mean, it's scary even, you know. So I don't know how that's going to work out, but I do know that I enjoy having a chief executive officer at the helm of the United States of America that is finally fighting for us. I mean, that is something that is so important.
Poking the hornet's nest, huh? Poking the hornet's nest. And it's just, they panic. Oh, the stock market did this. But one good thing to notice down here with, like you said, with the elderly age being the ones running the small farms, I noticed in the newspaper a couple of weeks ago that there's a lot of Amish and Mennonite that are moving into this area and buying out the farms, the estates, and keeping it. keeping it because
And
they've
they're
got a couple of their markets. They grow some great food.
and they're very collective when it comes to their finances. They don't do a whole lot of credit. They come with cash. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Marianne Mendoza. She's an angel mom whose son, unfortunately, was killed by an illegal alien. She currently serves as a consultant and advisory board member for We Build the Wall, Inc. Thank you for coming on the program, Marianne. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. This is Jack from Virginia, and you're on Cold War Radio.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
And we're all very sorry for your loss. I can't even imagine how that feels, especially when you see half of the political world in our country more or less cheerleading for illegal aliens. It blows my mind, and our prayers are with you.
Thank you very much. And it does blow my mind, too. Trust me.
I can imagine, and I'd like to hear about that. I mean, we just heard that the president moved a day or two ago to cancel the family loophole that's allowed illegal immigrant parents and children to pour into this country. He's proposing new rules, or he did, that would replace the Flores settlement that was found in court in 2015, that basically created a de facto catch and release policy for the families and encouraged these coyotes and whoever else is organizing this to get kids in the crowd, regardless if they're related to the people coming in. It's a hideous thing, but do you think this is going to help?
Absolutely. That's a huge incentive. The cartel know that that's a free ticket in to have a child with somebody. There's 15,000 children currently missing in Mexico, so that gives you a kind of an idea of what's been happening with these children. And, we don't even know about the children in Guatemala and Honduras. We do know that, parents are willing to sell their children under the pretense, we're going to take your child to America for a better life. You'll be able to join them soon. So absolutely this is what's needed to be done for a long time, and I applaud our president for doing it.
I got to tell you, I listened to people ridiculing the president and others that were talking about this situation. But I got to say, right after President Trump was elected, I was on Radio Row at a fair convention, an anti-illegal immigration. It's actually an immigration reform group.
Right.
And I spoke to a couple border sheriffs. And before I ever heard the president say it or heard it on the media, these sheriffs told me that they interviewed women, mothers, that pumped their little girls full of birth control medication before they made the trip because they knew they were going to get raped.
Absolutely. And, angel families and, the platform that we speak on is talking about American victims of illegal alien crime. But, there is a flip side to that. And a lot of these women and children who do come over the border, they have to pay the cartel thousands and thousands of dollars. And so our politicians who are encouraging this and not fighting to close our borders, secure our borders, are actually aiding and abetting in modern-day slavery because these people end up in our country and they end up working for unbelievable wages, and a lot of them are, put into the sex trafficking business. And this is something that our fellow Americans need to be aware of. This isn't, just about Americans. It's about these people being taken advantage of who are pouring into our country.
And thank you for joining us, Marianne. This is Jack. I find it very frustrating because I've read about your loss and the loss of many other fine families, and we've had this situation. The reasons why this is going on brought up to Congress since the president's been elected, and to this date, and going back decades prior, our Congress, our elected leaders, refuse to tackle this problem and pass common sense legislation that's easy to follow instead of continuing this one way with the border. I mean, last week we had a story about them arresting the people at the chicken plants, and come to find out there's laws that prevent these chicken plants from not hiring illegal aliens. So you've got loophole after loophole after loophole. And in the meantime, you have fine, upstanding Americans losing their lives, risking their lives, and wanting something better for their families. And I guess what I'm saying is, do you feel the same frustration that I'm trying to let the listeners hear about?
Absolutely. Americans have become collateral damage in this non-movement, this non-productive, fight for our congressional leaders to do. They take plenty of time, and I've been at many hearings, congressional hearings, that they bring these illegals in and talk about how terrible they're treated at our border detention centers. They have not had one hearing, during all of this. They've had a few angel families testify, but when you're in those, and this was years ago that they were having those, when you're in those hearings, I watch the congressional leaders who are running these things. They're looking at the watch. They're on the phone. They're staring at the ceiling. Al Franken actually fell asleep in one of them. This is how much they care about their fellow Americans. But they spend plenty of time in the last 6 months having all these hearings about the treatment of these children. My child was killed by a repeat illegal alien criminal who is allowed to stay in our country. He didn't deserve to die the way he did. My son had dreams, but they care about the dreamers, the non-citizen dreamers who are coming here. And this is frustrating beyond belief to angel families, and it goes beyond the death of our children and our loved ones. We have legal fees. I don't. The illegal who killed my son in the car accident died also, and I was spared a trial or not having justice served. But angel families have tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees trying to get justice for their families. These illegals, run back to Mexico, and there's medical bills. There's so many things that the average American doesn't understand of why we're speaking out. Nothing I say or do will bring my son back, but I'm hoping that something I say or do will prevent this from happening to another family.
And I think that it's very noteworthy that you do this, because, like you said, you have to foot all these costs. There's no one out there like funding the angel moms fight for justice yet. Anytime the president, the administration tries to do anything positive towards eliminating the loopholes or just putting up the wall, they are challenged by deep-pocketed agencies, organizations within the United States, and some that are funded from outside the United States. And it's like they have the deep pockets. They can go, boom, right to court, sue. And I'm sure that what the president's administration did this week to try to do something while Congress does nothing will be ended up in court again.
Absolutely. The ACLU is the first and foremost one to file all these lawsuits. But there's so many 501c3 tax-exempt organizations, pro-illegal, pro-open border organizations that file these lawsuits too. And I just find it hard to believe that they allow these organizations to continue operating within the United States tax-free.
Absolutely.
And using that money, aiding and abetting criminals to come into our country and aiding and abetting them by providing free legal counsel to them.
Marianne, I'd like to ask you, before this tragedy hit your family, were you involved in politics at all before that?
I was not. I went on many ride-alongs with my son. I was fully aware of illegal crime here in Arizona. I just didn't know the extent that it was happening. And after my son was killed, the research that I started doing, I was appalled at the leniency shown to illegal criminals in our court system for a crime that you or I would commit as an American citizen, and we'd be in jail. These illegal criminals are often just given a slap on the wrist, or they're given probation, or they're deported and they're back next week. So that really catapulted me into this fight, because I thought we need to start making people aware of, on their ballots when they're voting, don't just go through the list of the judges and say, yes. Start investigating these judges and how they're handling these cases in your jurisdictions, because it matters.
And not just the judges. The reason I asked the question is because myself, I always felt naively that the Republican Party was going to be the organization that stood up for American sovereignty and stopped this thing. And, you get to a point where you're scratching your head going, there's a Republican Congress and a Republican president. What's going on here? I want you to listen to a short clip from Ken Cuccinelli, formerly of Virginia. Now he's the immigration czar, I guess you'd call him. But I want you to listen to him calling out the Republican leadership on how this happened.
Partisan in our criticism. I mean, when Paul Ryan was the speaker, Paul Ryan submarined the best opportunity we had legislatively when Bob Goodlatte's bill, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, came through. And not enough people will challenge their own leadership in the GOP to beat them down when they are wrong. And we had leadership there that defended the status quo, that did not, they were the Chamber of Commerce Congress. They wanted illegal immigration, and this is not just left and right. There's plenty of people who are often associated with the right, although I don't know why the Chamber of Commerce is. I like the NFIB sticker on the back of the phone here. Get the small businesses. They actually make better representatives. But, you know, these problems have been bipartisan, and I agree with the congressman about the nature of the rhetoric and how many people on the left view not wanting this president to succeed. But on substance, that isn't the only place there's a problem. I actually think the 2020 election can help solve that problem. I believe when you run on things and people know this is what I get if I vote for X, if this party becomes the majority, I get this bill. Look at what the president did with the Scalia Supreme Court seat. He actually put a list of judges out and added later to that, but they were all in the mold of that list.
So I didn't really want to waste our time with you with a clip, but it just, it's very apparent to me now that a large portion of the Republican Party is for these conglomerates and these chicken plants and these Hormel Foods and everywhere else that basically uses a flavor of slave labor and is supportive of these illegals. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. And I was at a town hall for CNN with Paul Ryan, and they had me stand up, and I told him the story about my son, and he was all, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And the next person they had stand up and talk was a dreamer, and he's making all kinds of promises to her that they're going to take care of her. So I knew at that moment Paul Ryan was not the person that we needed to be Speaker of the House, because it just, you know, he wasn't going to be supporting our president whatsoever. It was a big disappointment when we had control of the House that more wasn't done in those first 2 years. And, you know, the things that the president ran his campaign on, that our elected officials there in Congress didn't, you know, take up the fight and go with it and try and get things passed. It was very disheartening.
Well, Marianne, I see that you're part of the We Build a Wall. We had former Congressman Tancredo on a couple of weeks ago, and I was so uplifted by that progress that's being made there. Is there any updates to what is happening with as far as the wall building via the We Build a Wall project? We
have several sites that are picked out. You know, unfortunately, we can't put it out publicly because you do have the ACLU and all these open border people that will file lawsuits immediately against the landowners or us to stop our progress. And so we have to keep it pretty tight to the chest and get moving on the project until it's past the point of no return. But we are definitely moving forward with another section of wall like we did in Sunland Park. And, you know, we're working hand in hand with Fisher Industries. And Tommy Fisher is an amazing man and has a superior product, 80, year lifespan steel that he uses versus 20 that most of these contractors are using on the border.
Yeah, it was amazing.
A paved road, lighting for the Border Patrol, sensors that, sense vehicles digging, walking 60 feet out from either side of the wall. So it's a superior product for less than the cost that most of these bids have come in. And unfortunately, CBP has awarded these contracts, and these companies are just sitting on the money in their accounts, drawing interest on taxpayer millions of dollars that have been given to them and doing nothing. And it's just sad that, President Trump recognizes what Tommy Fisher can do, but because Tommy Fisher contributed to Trump's campaign in 2016, there's a lot of pushback in D.C. about awarding Tommy Fisher any contracts, which is really another, indication of wasteful D.C. spending, government spending.
Well, I hope he gets the patent for all the equipment moving and the way he's building. I saw that video of how they can put up that amount of fence in such a short period of time, and that's very uplifting to see that going on, because we get frustrated, just like we're frustrated with anything that has to do with immigration. But the wall, especially, because that's, we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. And they like to think it was literally. I'm like, no, one way or another, it's going to hurt Mexico if we have to keep, putting this deal up.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I'm good. I'm happy to see that. Now, one last thing. Now, this is a big positive for me. I went and looked. I saw recently where Women for Trump were having a problem with the top tier tech people that like to shut out anyone that opposes their left leaning agenda. And I went to the site and noticed that you're part of the crew. So how is it being part of the Women for Trump movement as you head into the re-election campaign next year?
It's incredible. We had an event last night, which was happening simultaneously across the country, bringing women together. And I bring the aspect of an angel mom to the whole mix of things, and have a view of illegal immigration, which adds to the mix. And it's time that women, we're going to be celebrating the 100-year anniversary of women's suffrage, and we need to be able to stand boldly and say in public, I support President Trump, I'm voting for him in 2020, and not be afraid. These liberals, these Antifa, all these people who try and intimidate people in public, I have a right to say I support my president just as much as they have a right to say they don't. And this is why this is a message that we're trying to get out to empower women to be able to say we support our president, and get out there and vote, and make sure that we get, women registered who probably aren't, and men and young adults is the same. Try and get them registered to vote, and make them understand the importance of keeping this man in office, because I can't imagine where we would be as a country if Hillary Clinton had won in 2016. I am so thankful that President Trump made that step. He didn't need this job. He didn't need the grief that comes with it, and he donates his salary every quarter. This is a man who loves this country. I've met with him personally. I want your listeners to understand this man loves this country and its citizens, and he supports you and I. He knows what we want, and he's fighting for that.
Outstanding. Marianne, I have a young caller from California that has a question for you. Sean, go ahead.
Hey, my question to you is how many people are in your group? I mean, it's pretty much sounding really big, and I hope it gets bigger. And
in which group?
Your group, We Build a Wall.
We've got a really nice, a beautiful board of directors that's put together in an advisory board. But, Brian Colbadge and Amanda Shea, they're the co-founders. And, they started this all up in December of last year, and it just went gangbusters. And we've been having some events, and people continue to call in and get on our website, webuildthewall.us, donate. And, we're just going to keep showing our politicians this is what the American people want. And we're going to show them how to do a job that they're failing to do in D.C. for us.
All right. Thanks for the call, Sean. Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a guest on tonight. It's Marianne Mendoza, an angel mom, whose son, unfortunately, was killed by an illegal alien, currently a consultant and advisory board member for We Build the Wall Incorporated. Marianne, I'm very impressed with the advisory board. As Jack stated earlier, we had Tom Tancredo on here twice in 2 weeks. I mean, that guy is compelling to listen to. I also saw down on the border on location that Steve Bannon is involved with this. Have you had any interaction with him? He's one of the guys that I wish was still in the administration personally. But anyway, have you been able to talk to him?
I interact with him all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah, I interact with him all the time. He's a great guy. I mean, another man who understands the importance of border security. We've got Sheriff David Clark, who's on our advisory board. It's just a really rounded out group of people from different avenues of life and different perspectives of border security. And, that's why Brian put the advisory board together that he did, because he knew he needed to hear from all avenues and people who've been affected differently in our quest, to have our border secure.
Absolutely. And Brian's been on the program as well as several other board members. I want to thank you for coming on the show tonight. And just you have a lot of things going on the web. You have your own website, sergeantbrandonmendoza.org, a Facebook page, more toward We Build the Wall, facebook.com/We Build the Wall, website webuildthewall.us. How can people get in touch with you on Twitter, or what would you like to say to our audience that could help, push this ball closer to the goal line?
My son's Memorial Foundation was sergeantbrandonmendoza.org. That is it's non-political, and it's strictly a community-based organization that I keep my son's memory alive and continue the work that he was doing in the community. Angelfamilies.com is our website of the Angel Family community, and we are fighting to change legislation. We played a big part in the anti-sanctuary bill being passed down in Florida. We're working on tax remittance in several different states to start happening. And I'm on Twitter, but my main account, at MA Mendoza480, has been suspended by Twitter since the middle of July.
Oh, no.
And I'm on Twitter at Marianne, but in a bunch of numbers, 665 something. But they want me to remove 6 tweets from my main account. And I was on Fox and Friends, and President Trump actually saw me on there and tweeted out that Twitter needs to reinstate me, which they haven't done. I have an attorney in touch with Twitter Legal. But at this point, with the antitrust laws, we're not able to sue Twitter or Facebook. I just got out of a 7-day Facebook jail also for retweeting a Reuters article. So they're coming after me.
I love you, Marianne. Just so you know, I love you.
Keep fighting.
Yeah, keep fighting.
I am, and I'm actually going to start a blog so that nobody can shut me down. And
there you go.
I'm going to do my own thing here.
I want to give you one more opportunity because of something that you said. What were the different projects and things with the community that Sergeant Mendoza, your son, was involved in? What's some of his legacy, ma'am?
Well, he was a very humble man, and I found out after he was killed. I mean, he had already bought 3 bicycles for 3 grandchildren that grandparents were raising in his beat. We presented those to the children.
So he was a police officer. Police officer.
Yes.
Okay,
and
continue.
He would buy presents. He would provide Christmas for families in the area who were less fortunate, which I have continued to do that. I contribute to the Boys and Girls Club back to school backpack program. I've purchased playground equipment at the Boys and Girls Club where he went in and mentored children. And I have continued his annual Mendoza Thanksgiving dinner. We fed over 650 people last year.
Wow.
And I'm going to try and ramp that more up and start gearing it towards homeless veterans in the coming years, just because I feel that we need to acknowledge our homeless veterans. And I know my son had a soft spot. I have a son who's in the military also. And so, I want to make sure that I keep his legacy alive. And he was very well loved. He mentored a lot of children at that Boys and Girls Club. And I had children come up to me after he was killed saying, "This is Mendoza. Who's going to buy us pizza and ice cream?" And on his days off, he'd go to the park and play kickball with them and buy them all pizza or ice cream or something. So he was an amazing man, mentoring these children, telling them to stay off drugs, stay out of trouble, out of gangs, get an education, make something out of your life. And a lot of these children told me they wanted to be a police officer because of my son.
Oh, my goodness. That's so great, Miss Mendoza. I have to tell you, my age, I was impacted by the Boys and Girls Club when it was still the Boys Club. Actually, I learned how to swim there, and I had many interactions with people like your son that used to come and, a bunch of underage kids. And there's a Pittsburgh Pirate running the scoreboard, while we're playing basketball or whatever. It was just great. I want to thank you very much for coming on the show, and I hope you come back again sometime. I'd love to hear this is something that's in progress, so we might have to get you to report back.
I'm going to be at Feet to the Fire this year, so if you guys want to schedule an interview with me, I'll be there.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the program. Marianne Mendoza, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, Jack. Good interview, man. Heartstrings for
Amazing
days.
woman. I mean, that's what right there on the front line battlefield. Those of you listening, I mean, I feel like I'm part of the team, doing what I do to help you out on your show just that little bit. And all the listeners, all this, we should be charged up
Yeah.
to what this angel mom does. I mean, she's part of We Build a Wall. She's keeping the legacy of her son in line, fighting immigration reform, building that wall. Also, she's on Women for Trump team. I mean, that's what you're talking about.
And all this, when you look at Americans, some Americans that get a little bit of a setback in their life, and they go completely stupid,
fold up,
and go to shoot up a school or come out and just rant on the president. We've got a lot coming up for you, and then you have a woman like Marianne with the fortitude to say, damn. I mean, can you imagine the pain? You have kids, right?
Pain. I have kids, and I
can't imagine the pain.
I read all of the wonderful things her son. I mean, while he was serve and protect as a police officer, what he also did outreach within the community in Arizona. I believe it's Mesa, Arizona. What he was doing, and just because of lax laws and the failure of our elected Congress to fix the failed immigration laws to protect American citizens, he, after pulling his shift during the day on his way home, was hit and killed by an illegal alien under the influence, who had been arrested before, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But how many times do we have to see this? I mean, you see day after day, mayors, governors of states, elected Congress people, senators standing up for the rights of people that aren't even citizens of this country.
And not only that. I'm going to say it. Ann Coulter articulated this very well. In America, we have a culture. And in other countries, they have cultures. And the people that are illegally entering this country, the vast majority are peasants. Their culture has not made it to the point of ours. And every time we bring one of these people in, we take a notch down from our culture. Can I say typhus? Can I say bubonic plague? Can I say mumps, measles, rape, DUI killings? How many times have you heard of a situation like happened with Mrs. Mendoza's son?
Right.
It's almost every day.
And what the left side wants to do is appeal to your heartstrings and say, well, these people are, they're fleeing for their lives from oppression from another country. And it's like, no, wait a minute. We have immigration laws. We have laws that allow people in. We have laws that allow a percentage of people to come in that are refugees from other countries, but they can come here legally, and there's a certain amount of number because they know when they pass these laws, there's a certain amount of folks that are allowed in that's not going to disrupt what you're talking about, the culture of what's going on in the United States.
But really,
they did it from the get-go.
I gotta say, from 1961, that was when it started. That's when we started allowing people into this country that were not, how can I say this? That were not beneficial, to our country. We never did it before 1961 and Ted Kennedy, among others. And now we have this fake conservative party called the Republican Party, which one of the Kochs just died, by the way. But these are the people that are supplying the oligarchy, if you will, if you understand what an oligarchy is. It's basically business and government in the same bed, making laws to further the interest of the businessman, not the business, the businessman.
Isn't that about the same time? Was it Citizens United, where corporations are people?
Right, exactly.
Right, where suddenly,
but union members are. It's ridiculous, and how the union leadership gets away with it with their rank and file. It's kind of like the Democrats getting away with it with the black community. It's like you people are like asleep at the wheel, man.
The union, right? The union was, if you joined it, they would help and back you up. But then it got to the point where the union was basically saying, if you're not in the union, you can't have the job. So they were the boss, right? And next thing you know,
but even with their benefits, the union bosses, they were in collusion, since that's the word that we're using now, with the business owners. And when it comes to public unions, with the mayors and governors, mainly mayors, and congressmen and governors in federal, state, and local union jobs.
When the union leaders stopped wearing work clothes to confront and try to fight for the workers and started wearing three-piece suits and eating cracked crab and drinking cocktails, you knew it was over for the working man. Right?
Exactly. And what they would do, and if you're a union member now, and I have a union member, a strong union member in my family, my son, and I told him, I said, you watch your union president. You're in negotiations right now. You're in salary contract negotiations, arbitration, whatever. And you watch what they're going to promise you. They're going to promise you things they can't deliver. They're going to promise you that you, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, and their grandkids are going to be covered with health care for the rest of their lives. They can't promise you that. But they're not going to give you a salary increase.
Remember when the unions were real strong? It was when the United States made everything that people bought, right? The manufacturing, the industry, and all that was in the United States. So the unions had leverages. They had walkouts, right?
Where's the show from, man?
No, Pittsburgh. I know. But what happened, right?
My father fought for the United Steelworkers Union. And back then it was one of the most racist organizations in the country. Because I also knew members of the black activist community that were railing against the unions because they couldn't get a job in the union.
I remember that too.
So it's.
But then, you went from that where the unions, they actually, when they would go on strike, I think the last major strike that tried wasn't industry. I think it was the air traffic controllers, where they tried to shut down America. And what did Reagan do?
That was a public sector union, yeah.
Yeah, but that's where it all moved to because
I saw
the private sector stuff went overseas.
A strike, one of the worst ones I ever saw, and there were several murders involved with this, was the United Mine Workers. And Richard Trumka was the president of the United Mine Workers at the time. And they actually killed a guy, a scab, that broke the picket line, and he settled. The unions have millions of dollars. They settled with the guy's family, and Trumka continued on to be Obama's Secretary of State, I think, Secretary of Commerce. But that strike, I remember, and you guys can Google this. I remember seeing Time magazine reports back when I was younger of guys with M16s at the coal mines. There was a real war, a shooting war in West Virginia and Pennsylvania. A guy named Jock Yablonsky, was running for president of the U.S. the Mine Workers Union and was murdered, and with his whole family, with a 12-gauge shotgun.
The message sent.
Yeah, pretty much, man. Unbelievable stuff. All right, we're going to shift gears now, ladies and gentlemen. That interview will be available shortly. Jack, we have media that is so complicit with the Democrat Party. When was it where we last saw Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Was that about 2 months ago, I believe? And then the comedy little skits came out about, where's Ruth Bader Ginsburg? You remember that?
Where's Ruth?
Mm-hmm. What about like
weekend
2 months ago?
Ruth Bader's?
Yeah, 2 months ago, something like that. Where is she? Maybe 3 months. Well, here we find out for the past several weeks, she's been being treated for, and they don't call it pancreatic cancer, because pancreatic cancer is a death sentence. Permanent. They call it cancer on her pancreas. This is the third or fourth time this woman has been treated for cancer, Jack. Can you imagine? Can you even imagine how this would be playing out if there was a Democrat administration? They would be telling her, get off, retire today, stop, no, you shouldn't go any further, leave right now. It's unbelievable, the heartlessness of this party.
If it was under the Medicare for All system or a full-blown Affordable Care Act, I think the plug would have been pulled, right? Because you had the board there and said, well, she's lived a fine life.
Isn't she 90?
She's lived a long.
She's late 80s, if not 90.
But yeah, that's what also hit me as very funny, because when you say pancreatic cancer, it's over.
Yeah, you don't just think death, you think painful death.
Yeah, isn't that what took little Joe from Bonanza and My Little House on the Prairie?
And the guy from Roadhouse.
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, boom, boom, boom. Now, that also makes you think that she is still around. What kind of treatment is she getting compared to the rank and file folks? I mean, right. I'm going to start some conspiracy here. Let's talk about that. What kind of treatment is she getting if she just got pancreatitis on the side of her pancreas?
and the thing about it that gets me, it's not just that. It's that, where was nobody in the entire media knew that she had a bald head?
They all got the press release last night, right?
Yeah. It was just
all right, it's okay. At the same time that they got the trope memo a couple of days ago.
You were listening to the show, I see. Very good. Ken from King George, what's on your mind, brother?
You were talking about this, Ruth Bader Ginsburg thing. One of the guys that I work with right now he's a lot younger. He wound up with pancreatic cancer, and he's still alive. Now, he can go through, but he's a lot younger. He's early 20s, but he damn near almost died too.
Man, what a water balloon on your life, man. Jeez, oh man.
But it's crazy. I mean, the medical advances are out there, but I mean, at 87, your chances of survival probably aren't as great as somebody in their 20s.
She's at the State of the Union address, something that people like me would, give up my left pocket button on my shirt to go to, and she falls asleep. She falls asleep. I mean, it's retirement time, man.
I guess she didn't take enough Geritol that day or something.
I find that very offensive, Ken. But go ahead.
I'm here. I aim to please.
I know, so please aim. But what's on the smoker tonight, or the grill?
Nothing on the smoker. We had a meeting at work today, and one of the guys brought in pizza, so
Oh, I
he didn't
love
want to
pizza.
take it home, so just, reheated that in the oven real quick. So
That's good. Don't do it in the microwave. You got to do it in the oven. The best way to do it is 500 degrees, man. Don't mess around with 350. 500.
500 for what? 5 minutes?
That's it. Trust me.
But it was like 450 on the stone.
That works. That works. You got a stone? That works.
Oh, yeah.
Got to have a stone.
Oh, man, when it comes to cooking, we don't mess around.
There you go.
And we got even more stuff now. The middle stepson, he's taking a culinary course. So every Thursday, the neighbor kids, that was one of the reasons the neighbor kids were over the other day.
Right.
Because he has to do his homework for this culinary school. So they come over and get free food.
You did say culinary, right? Culinary?
Yeah. Culinary.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's my stepson too, man. He's doing the same thing. He'll call my wife on the way home from work and be like, can I get some fresh thyme and some soy milk and maybe some goat cheese? And I'm like, no, man. Mozzarella, provolone, and get some marinara. Do the right thing.
There you go. But, hey, quick update. I was talking about that whole thing up there in Montgomery County. I guess WJLA, I think, is ABC7 affiliate.
I don't know. If you say so.
They've got one reporter up there that's actually, doing his job as a reporter. So Montgomery County, they've had in the past 2 weeks 4 illegals. Now it's a sanctuary county. They've had 4 illegals get, nabbed for whatever. 2 of them just happen to be they raped a 12-year-old girl.
Boy. How could you
Further
even do
information came out that the day she was apparently raped twice by 2 different guys. I guess they all knew her somehow. But the day that she was raped by the one guy, his girlfriend, wife, or whatever, was in the hospital in labor having baby number 3. So, yeah, when you talk about this peasant culture.
That's what they are, man.
Here,
and, it's even worse. It's even worse if you go to Ilhan Omar's district, Minnesota 5. These people don't even know what electrical outlets are when they get here. They don't even know what toilets are.
It's funny you mention that because one of the other guys I work with, his parents live up in Alaska. So every summer he takes 4 weeks off work, goes up to visit his parents.
Cool.
And so up there, I guess they've got a lot of native Alaskans, they call them.
Eskimos is what I call them.
Eskimos,
but go ahead.
Right? Yeah. But
this is a politically incorrect show, man. Politically incorrect.
So they build all this Section 8 housing and stuff for them.
Natural.
Right? Using taxpayer money up there.
Sure.
And I guess they used to, back in the day, get a lot of subsidies from the pipeline and all that stuff. So essentially, if you wanted to live off the land, you didn't really have to do shit as far as work, and the government would cut you, the state government would cut you a check from the basically profit sharing for the pipeline.
Sure.
Because they were raking in so much money. Well, the problem is, they'll install nice kitchens and fancy bathrooms and stuff, and these people just they don't live like that. And you go by these places, and there's, according to my coworker, he said you'll see toilets and stuff brand spanking new out in the yard. They don't use it.
I'll tell you a story that I saw with my own eyes in the southern part of Iraq. Trying to remember, it's where the girl got sidetracked and got captured down there. Camp Adder was the name. Camp Adder. I'm trying to remember the province that it was in. It'll come to me. But I was there visiting one of my brigades. It was the first of the 82nd Brigade Combat Team. And their captain was showing me his maintenance operation down there. They were training the Iraqi army. And this guy's a captain, and there's a 2-star Iraqi general that's talking to the troops, and I'm sitting there observing. I'm from the command, and I'm observing for my general, and this captain had to, like, dress down this 2-star general and say, no, we're not having tea. They call it chai, because chai is when everybody stops working. And they all just, it's kind of like a Mexican siesta. You know, it's hot as hell in Iraq. And so they all want to break. Well, the GIs and the 82nd guys are like, no, we're teaching you how to use this wrecker. And my point is, the Italians had come in there and installed several modular housing units in here, and a modular restroom with showers and toilets and everything else. These savages tore this up, Ken. I mean, it was like San Francisco. There was fecal matter all over this place. It was a perfect modular thing that a civilized person could use with running water and everything. It wasn't city water, but it was, you know, there was a tank outside that they filled up regularly. It's just, our cultures are not compatible sometimes. And we have to be able to admit that.
One more quick note. You're always talking about, you know, they're trying to change the language, right? You got to call them Native Alaskans or whatever the hell instead of Eskimos,
Right. You heard me, yeah.
So, just like out in San Francisco, they just passed that legislation where you can't call a convicted convicted felon, they're like some kind of judicial whatever, justice something or other.
Because that's all they got out there. Yeah, that's all they have out there.
In-service justice department. What the hell? What's it called?
Yeah, something like that. Well, so these EBT recipients, they're not, you know, they're not welfare recipients. They're clients.
Like they're paying for something.
You know, and that's what they're clients. And the reason they went to this whole EBT thing, you know, because how many other people, you know, how often do you see people using cash nowadays?
Right.
Not that often, right? Everybody whips out their credit or debit card or whatever, you know, because it's convenient.
And what did they do? And they made it to where you're no longer embarrassed to be a parasite.
Right, because it increases their dignity.
That's exactly right. And the Democrat Party needs victims. It's the only way the Democrat Party prevails. With a population that is fully self-reliant, eliminates the Democrat Party. And a lot of our government spending.
Oh, no kidding.
So,
and just real quick, last thing, and I'll get off here.
Now, this is your second last thing, but go ahead.
Okay. All right. Anybody?
You're good.
Joe Rogan can be an ass, but he did a really good interview with Dan Crenshaw. Just
did
check
he?
that out.
Did he bring up the BS opinion that Dan Crenshaw has about red flag laws?
Yes, they did discuss that,
and
along with a bunch of other stuff. So it was very good. It's long. It's like 2.5 hours.
Oh, they all are. They're longer than my show.
But yeah, definitely worth the watch.
Hey, Ken, thanks for continuing to listen and participate, man. Have a great weekend.
Oh, you too, Hutch. And Dad.
All right, there's Ken from King
George. Almost a neighbor. He's up there, further up on the northern neck.
How about that? The northern neck. That still sounds racist. But no, when I was in the military on active duty in the mid '80s, and there was some black nationalists that you never hear of anymore in my unit, and they used to call white people. You know how they call us rednecks. Well, they broke it down into necks. You're just a neck. You're a neck. So when I hear northern neck, that's what I remember. That black nationalist. All right. Let's move on here. There's a study out. 78% of college students, and I've been saying this for years, 78% of college students with gender issues, in other words, they just can't figure out, they can't look down in between their legs and figure out what's there. You know, they have all these issues. And it says that 78% of these students meet criteria for mental health problems. Imagine that, Jack. You don't know who you are.
That also means that they can be pumped full of pharmaceuticals.
Why, certainly. And claim victim status. And when they rape somebody, well, it was just because of... Let's go to Marlene in Eugene before I answer that. Hello, Marlene.
Hey, Hutch. Hi, Jack.
Hi, Marlene.
Hey there. Anywho, we were talking a lot about immigration, and by the way, that lady was wonderful.
Thank you.
Marianne, she was great.
That's Mona at work.
Darn right. Anywho, I found something on the wonderful American Thinker, and it's talking about how Trump is trying to get rid of the, basically what I think he's really trying to do is get rid of anchor babies, that whole bunch of BS. And it was talking about how Judge Scalia was an originalist, which is what I think you should be. And they're talking about how the 14th Amendment was written after the Civil War.
Do you know why the 14th Amendment was
Yes.
written? And why we have anchor babies? It was for Africans.
Yeah.
It was for the people. It was for the people that were here as slaves to ensure that they became full citizens.
Right.
That's what it was about. It was not about Mexicans. It was not about Chinese. And over on your side of the country, there are organizations with hotels and with midwives and with medical staff that are there to provide the Chinese communists
China.
with the way to overtake our country, to invade us.
Oh, yeah.
True.
And it's sickening. It's absolutely sickening.
It is.
Continue.
Way sickening. Anywho, they got toward the end, as explaining the 14th Amendment and how, yes, it was to ensure the civil rights of free slaves and to correct the injustices due to the Dred Scott case, which denied blacks the chance to be a citizen under the Constitution. And then they go on, and then toward the end, Tucker Carlson, they quote him saying that he was talking to Michael Anton, and he said there's a clause in the middle of the amendment that people ignore or they misinterpret, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. What they're saying is if you're born on U.S. soil, subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S., meaning you're the child of citizens or the child of legal immigrants, then you are entitled to citizenship. If you are here illegally, if you owe allegiance to a foreign nation, if you're the citizen of a foreign country, it doesn't apply to you. In other words, you're not a citizen.
No.
And so, no, exactly. And so Trump's trying to change that. And I
there's another.
I hate the whole idea of anchor babies.
I do too, and there's another angle to that, and it comes in the Federalist Papers, and it comes in editorials that were written during the period between 1776 and 1789, when the Constitution was finally ratified by the 57 states. The 17 colonies, or however many, 13 colonies is what 13. It is. Right. And that is that the First Amendment, the religious portion of that amendment is only for religions that would not be against the state. And Islam is most absolutely against the state of the United States of America and our Constitution. And until we get, and that's the battle, ladies and gentlemen. That is the existential battle that we face right now. And that is not to take away from Marlene's call, but that is where we need to focus for the future. Because if we ever get a Hillary Clinton or a Paul Ryan in office, they are going to tell you that Muslims are protected by the First Amendment when it comes to Islam. And that is destruction of our way of life. And we cannot let that happen. They are a political system that is against this country, and they are not protected by the First Amendment. And if anybody thinks that they are just looking at the destruction, first and foremost, of our beautiful women. They'll be the first, and our homosexual community. You know, it's horrible. Anyway, your final thoughts. I got to move on.
I know you do. I guess in the end, I was going to say you're right about the Muslims. I've been reading about them too, and how they want to take over the United States, little bits and pieces at a time, and they work with the commie-crats to do exactly that.
No, you're absolutely right.
That's
right. Let me see if I can find a link for the chat room that covers exactly that. Because if you go to steelcityresistance.com and you go to the research room, there are just so many things in there. Okay, there, I found it. Look at that. I'm going to put the link in the chat room. And ladies and gentlemen, what this is, and you can always go back to the chat room even after the show is over and pick up these links. But this is a link to an exploratory memorandum that they found that Andrew McCarthy, who's been on the show, found as he was prosecuting the Holy Land Foundation that
I started
calls out,
by the way.
And it tells you, right? It tells you exactly what they're going to do. You know, and they've already, I mean, that was back in the 90s. If you look at what they've already accomplished in that exploratory memorandum,
they've accomplished a good chunk of it.
They have.
Well, if you look at what's been going on in Europe, right? We know that the whole movement was try to draw, the whole effort of destroying the United States is to draw it into this one world order being ruled by this European Union type thing. But we see cracks in the facade on the European side. And the best thing, the most positive thing I can say out of each one of those is a small individual country. You've seen what's going on in Sweden. You've seen what's going on in Germany. You've seen what's going on in the United Kingdom. But you see folks in Italy fighting back. And you have the eastern part of the European Union, Hungary and the likes, basically saying, no, we are not going to be part of this. We are not going to allow you to destroy our sovereignty. In the meantime, we see the seeds of what's happening in Europe, what they've allowed to happen there. We see the seeds. They've been planted here. We have a few of them within our own Congress right now.
Man, Jack, I'm telling you, I hope you listened to me the last show. Might have been 2 shows ago. No, it was last show. And I'm done with Western Europe, man. I am. Yeah. They have no worth to the United States of America. And I'm talking all of them, man. I'm talking England, Australia, New Zealand, Italy, France. Well, you can all, Norway, Scandinavia, kiss my ass. Goodbye.
Denmark, just like That's President basically just went off on Denmark and said, wait a minute. You know,
I want to see an alliance. I want to see an alliance with Poland. I want to see an alliance with Austria. You know what I mean? I had enough of this.
Hungary.
Yeah, Hungary, absolutely.
Italy's fighting back. One of the first victims of the European Union, one of the first victims, which I think should be one of the strongest nations within the European Union, was the center of civilization, right? Greece,
Sure.
ancient Greece,
And they're catching hell right now. They've got more migrants, invaders from Africa out in their coast right now in boats.
Yeah.
You know, we have to reshift our alliances. I firmly believe
but that was one. Yeah, but that was a one comparison. We see this. If you're awake in the United States and you see what they're trying to do to our country,
there you go.
Just look to Europe and see. But each one of those individual countries, they have been overwhelmed.
They're still
Sweden's
supporting
been
Iran.
overwhelmed.
They are still supporting Iran
because they're tied economically
That's
to
right.
that.
Well,
and think about that.
drop a
When
bomb
Trump's
on 'em.
saying, President Trump saying, we want the strongest economy, American made. We can be self-sufficient. It doesn't matter what the rest of the world wants to do. We will survive this.
The Quislings in the United Kingdom are allowing their young white women to be used by the Pakistanis that they call students in rape gangs. Screw you, UK. You want to be women? Be women. Goodbye. Nothing against women, Marlene. I'm just saying.
I understand, but I know what was going on over in England. That whole thing with Tommy Robinson, trying to bring out the truth. And what do? They arrest him.
It's
now
unreal.
He's in some jihadi prison. I don't even know if he's even still alive now.
I don't either, man. I'm gonna have to look into that. Marlene, thanks for calling. I got a lot.
You're welcome, my friend.
All right,
I know
man.
you.
One of our best callers, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Marlene.
Always brings some great information to the show.
Absolutely. All right, let me look and see where I am here. Representative gets chastised CNN. Now, if you ever had any question of whether or not CNN was fake news, they just hired the FBI's disgraced director, McCabe. And Getz said it's not every day CNN can hire someone with failed coup attempt on their resume. I think CNN should be introduced to some D9 Caterpillar bulldozers in Atlanta.
They're laughing stock. CNN is laughing stock. I don't know anybody. Maybe it's because I don't know very many people, but I don't know anybody that watches CNN. So unless they're stranded in an airport, you know.
I know.
Poor Ken in the chat room. You're not chopped liver, my brother.
Oh, jeez. There we go. All right.
I mean, come on, man.
Let's talk about some of these Democrats that are running for office, and it's just amazing at their take on illegal immigration.
And then we have to think about the jobs, right? Because the reason this happens is there are a lot of jobs in our community that, like it or not, for better or worse, Americans are not willing to take. I mean, who do you think is taking care of our seniors? 50% of the elder care workers in the state of New Jersey are immigrants, most of them legal, most of them documented, but certainly some who are not. Who do you think is mowing our beautiful lawns in Somerset County? We don't usually ask, but a lot of those workers are undocumented. There are just not a lot of, kids, from Montgomery High who are going to be
No, he did go.
Yes, he did. He went there.
Going into robotics, for goodness sake.
He went there.
What's that? You work at Code Ninjas, exactly. You're a bunch of elitists. You're not going to know.
That was Democrat Tom Malinowski, and said that we need illegals to mow our beautiful lawns. Get your fat ass outside and cut your own grass.
I know. What the hell is and what?
Man.
Who's going to take care of our seniors?
Right.
Wait a minute. When I was growing up,
If illegal
the
aliens,
families took care of their elderly, right?
If illegal aliens are taking care of our seniors, we got an illegal alien problem, folks. I don't want illegal aliens taking care of me. You know,
And you can't have a beautiful lawn unless an illegal alien is tending it.
It's
Right, give me a break.
Julian Fidel Raul Castro. This guy, I despise this mongoloid-looking Latino more than just about anybody else in politics. I hate this guy. This guy, his mother is a devil spawn. She was one of the leaders of the Chicano movement of the 70s. I don't know. I think you're close to my age, Jack, and probably read. Did you read Mad Magazine when you were a kid?
Alfred E. Newman.
Right. You remember?
Double fold the
you
back
remember
page to
the
get a
margins?
different
Yeah. Excellent stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I feel bad for kids that didn't get to do that because you waited all month for this thing to come out, and then you put those arrows together and made sure the crease was right. So anyway, if you never read the magazine, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But
it wasn't politically correct either.
Not at all. And you remember in the margins, because this was back in the time of 60s and 70s, Fidel Castro. They had the guy that wrote the column in the margins was Sergio Aragonés. And it was all about Cuban communist people, and there were little things of firing squads in the margin, and the way the Cubans would rout people out of their houses and everything. But that's what this reminds me of, and he applauds news outlets for calling Trump racist.
70s radical raises twin sons to become communist candidates in the 21st century.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, what this illustrates is you have a host of a talk radio program with a co-host, and I said something, and he went to the internet and found out that I was telling the damn truth. Right? I mean, this woman raised these kids to be anti-American, and now they're both ensconced in the Democrat Party. One's running for president, and the other one is doxing everybody in his district in Congress that supported financially President Trump. These are communists that should be ejected from our country.
It's bad. It's just like whenever I see a pedigree, Harvard, Oxford, a short stint in the United States military, I'm like cringing.
Yeah.
Because, there you get Egg McMuffin, right? He has a good educational background. Right. And out of nowhere, who is running for president on the Democrat side this time?
Buttigieg.
Mayor Buttigieg.
Yeah. It's
unreal. And if you listen to him, I mean, he's got the right thing to say, and he's very eloquent, and he says it smoothly.
He's a girl, man. He's a girl. He's a freaking girl, and I'm going to show you that here in a second.
And he's the one that basically said the Electoral College has outlived this, blah, blah, blah. But he just says it matter-of-factly, so it's out there, and all the people that can just fall for him. But no, this guy's a plant. And me, I'm the CT guy on the show. He's a CIA plant for this election cycle.
He's bad. Now, I got to tell you,
Brennan's boy.
The president has ordered U.S. companies to look for alternatives to China.
I think that's a little heads-up warning.
I think so, too. I think that if you're a business owner in the United States of America, and you want to do something to move your business forward, don't look at China, man. It's not the place to go. Are you for the United States or are you for China?
Exactly. I'm going to see where you stand right now.
And in that same conversation, you have Bernie Sanders, failed presidential candidate previously, communist, calling for the nationalization of energy production. Oh, where does that come from? Where can we look at an area where that was done and so much good things came from it? Let's go to
Venezuela?
Maracaibo. Let's go to Venezuela. and look and see where that leads. He also wants United States oil company executives to be in prison. I mean, the people that have allowed the world to grow and to create all the things that we have, he wants to put them in prison.
Radical. I mean, what do they want? The high-speed rail to Hawaii. I mean, this is how off the wall these folks are.
And they would
seriously.
They would shut down farms. I mean, these people. Well, you know what? There is a little hope, and I don't know how this is going to go on the audio clip, but I told you at the beginning of the show that you have to go to steelcityresistance.com to the video page to get the full effect of some of the audio clips that we play. But I'm going to play a trailer for a movie right now, and it's called The Angel Has Fallen. And it is an exciting and glorious mockery of the Russia collusion hoax that was pulled off on all of us. So I want you to listen to this, and this is the President of the United States and his most trusted ally, and how the neocons in the Republican Party and the Democrats tried to bury him. Again, you may have to go to the video to get it, but I'm going to play. Listen to that. Can you hear that? Oh my goodness, we got a fire call in the valley. Anyway, let's listen.
The President's top guardian angel has fallen.
You must really like fishing, Mr. President. It's cold out here. Sorry. I ain't anything to get out of D.C. for a while. Mike, I'm selecting you for Secret Service Director. Congratulations. I'll give it my best shot, sir.
Banning's on his way.
What is that? Are they bats?
The drones! The drones! Don't move! Don't move! I'm coming to you! They're coming at you, Mark! Get him in the water, Cal! Go! So, I got you. Going under. Dive deep.
There's been an assassination attempt on the president.
Mike Bannon, you're being charged with the attempted murder of the President of the United States.
The President's top guardian angel has fallen.
Can't you see that I'm being set up?
You have a collect call from
Mike.
Body's cold, time is frozen.
We've been getting death threats.
There's somebody else behind us. It wasn't me. The president's not safe. They're going to try and finish the job. And I'm not going to stop until I prove who did this. I love you.
How did you find me?
I want security for the president. How do you think, Dad? I need your help. We gotta get out of here.
I ain't going nowhere.
You can't hide from us, Banning.
Don't worry about finding me. I'll find you. Listen to me. We're gonna make a move. Now people are gonna fall. But not you.
So that was a little interesting. I can't wait to see that. I want to see that, and I want to see a movie called The Irishman that Scorsese just put together. That's going to be interesting about Frank Sheeran. But anyway, that looks like a good movie. And it's nice that they have taken that hoax and kind of they realize, look, this isn't going to last in the public. They're going to figure this out. And I think that some people are going to go to jail here very soon. I really hope that I'm not being the naive guy that I was back in 2012 when you listened to our Steel City Resistance flashbacks on Sunday nights. I really hope not. But a recently passed law, Jack, in the state of Washington will effectively end a campus firearm storage program at Washington State University. The students used to be able to come in there, much like on an Army base, and give their first sergeant, or here, give their school police, their university police force, their weapons to hold for them in a locked vault. And now they've taken that away. So I would tell you that the next school shooting will probably happen in Washington.
Yeah, I mean, it's a secured facility. It's safe. It's positive. Positive security of a firearm. Right? You're going to university. It's free to own weapons. And Washington State used to be one where you'd have the weekend where you can check it out from the arms room and go out there and do your target practice. Fire off a few rounds, maintain your ability to use your firearm of choice, and then when you're done with it, clean it, boom,
put it back.
You can't put it in your arms or your dorm or whatever, but you got your arms room there, boom, check it back in, and there it is, safe and sound, secured. No one's going to take it away. It's not going to come into the wrong hands.
And maybe you were going to use it to go hunting, or maybe you joined a gun club in the area. You wanted to go shoot some trap or some skeet or something like that.
It was pro Second Amendment.
Right.
It was like, yeah, you have the ability. We don't want you walking around campus with it, and we don't feel it's good that you're in the dorms on campus. A lot of them might get nervous, or a lot of them they might get a little sketchy, and then you're always going to have somebody that might just want to steal it from you and do something negative like that. So it was a positive deal to have a place, even when you're active duty, like you said, in the military. I've got weapons here for hunting and all this stuff. Boom, check them in the arms room. They're safe and sound until you need to go hunt.
Right. NBC News comes out with a crazy thing geared toward women that says heterosexuality is just not working. They've gone so far as to say that women now, especially as they age, should turn to lesbianism, because the whole heterosexuality concept is what has globally suppressed them over the millennia. What a NBC News. NBC News.
What?
My voice cracks when I say
old thing. They used to be spinster?
Yeah,
maybe, or some terminology like that.
Sure.
There was when I was growing up, there was just a certain segment of the society that even on the male side, a man would be dedicated to the military. He wouldn't marry, have children, nothing. He'd be 100% boom dedicated to that. And the females, I don't know if you get past, what do you have to get past 18 or what? You're going back to the 1800s where you're past 15, like Granny said on the Beverly Hillbillies, and this, you're over the hill. I mean, we're talking,
What was the secretary's name on that show? Drysdale's secretary. That was your perfect
Hathaway.
Yeah, that was her. She was the barren one. But Now Buttigieg. One of the reasons we have to go back to Buttigieg here.
The CIA.
I don't really want to, but we're going to go back to Buttigieg, and the reason that he can never be the president of the United States of America. This guy says that Trump is causing mental health crisis by being so stressful. Go to your room, Buttigieg. Get off the stage. Stress is part of life. And it is especially, and I'm not really sure how far up in the chain of command you got, Jack, but I can tell you, because I got up pretty far. Stress is part of the job, man.
You pulling
it's
right on me?
It's part of life. No, I'm just saying that I had a lot of stress and never got my panties in a wad over it because I never had panties.
No. Yeah, you can't. I mean, that is definitely part of life. But the beautiful thing is if you're raised right and you're taught to attack challenges and you may not succeed every time you attack a challenge. You may fail. You're going to fail more than you're going to succeed. But just the act of fighting back to take it on, and when you're victorious or when you basically succeed over handling a challenge, is far outweighs the whining and crying of wanting to just curl up in a corner and let somebody hand you a snow cone because somebody said, is it A or B? And you're like, this is too rough.
I know. I smoke stress out of a pipe, man. I'm sitting here right now, and I have all kinds of police radio antennas and everything, and it's silent all the time. And I got a full-blown call right now, and I can't follow it because I'm doing this show. You can hear it out there. Listen.
Yeah.
Place is going nuts, right? Valerie Z from Florida. Good evening, ma'am. What's on your mind?
Good evening, Hutch and Jack.
Hello, Valerie.
Hi. I was just thinking about how numb we've become as a society that we could even step back and think we could be male or female. I mean, it is not even an option for someone who is strong. It's such a weak, dumb concept to even think for 1 second that the media or Hollywood, anybody could dictate that, well, you could go either way. You could, one day be a male, one day be a female. It's causing severe depression in our youth.
In our weak youth. In our weak fatherless youth.
They got cross-dressers reading to our young children.
And the saddest part of it, I was watching some videos, is that some of these young people that have these sex change operations, they realize by the time they're 22 or 23 that they made a mistake.
100% of them. 100% of them. I read one that was from a guy that realized he blew it after he got the chop a dick off of me and realized, he said, I'm not a woman, I'm a kangaroo. I got a pouch.
Did you see my Facebook picture?
No, I didn't. But I want you to listen. I want you to listen to the candidate for governor of Louisiana.
I'm Ralph Abraham. I'm running for governor, and here's the truth. Life begins at conception. Government is too big. Our taxes are too high, and our car insurance is too expensive. President Trump is doing a great job. Facts matter more than feelings. The Second Amendment is self-explanatory, and as a doctor, I can assure you there are only two genders. I'm Republican conservative Ralph Abraham. I'm running for governor, and that's the truth.
Man.
Well, ripped a double to the notch. And this one soars out of here. Wow! It leaves the ballpark on the fly. Hello, Allegheny. Josh Bell with the homer. One of the loudest home runs you'll ever see.
That's amazing. I mean, that's straight to the point, common sense, boom.
I know.
Absolutely. We should support this guy's campaign.
Absolutely.
Like you once said a long time ago, Hutch, you said, you don't only support the people in your local community. Sometimes you have to reach out and support some of the other people in places we don't live because we got to get this thing going. And it's really true.
It's because where I live. I mean, I can't throw any money at anybody around here. Not around here. Around here we do good. But back in Pittsburgh, they're just brainwashed, man. They're just, it's horrible. It's sad to me. It's very sad to me where I see, and the worst part about it, Valerie, is people in my own family that are brilliant, but yet on this one decision, they're stupid. You know, it's why would you stand with Bernie Sanders? How could you do that?
I know.
My own brother spent 9 years in the United States Army. Some of it embedded in Eastern Germany, in Berlin, in the Berlin Brigade. And I'm thinking now, after different interactions with him, I don't know if you listened to what I said last weekend, but dude, you should have stayed in Eastern Germany. You should have just stayed there. Why'd you come back? Why didn't you have your kids in East Germany and raise them as atheists there? Why bring them back here to pollute my country?
But I look at the same type scenario, Hutch, and I always have to I tell myself that it takes an effort to actually try to be engaged, especially if you're going to be off the mainstream, right? Because how many years during our growth period in adulthood were we told, your vote doesn't count?
Yeah.
Your vote doesn't count. Your vote doesn't count. And it's only been the last 10 years that I'm like, wait a minute, no. If you don't cast a ballot, you're basically allowing these folks to do what they've done to our government. So that's why it's such a huge mess. So I always feel partly responsible for the mess that's going on. That's why I like.
If you didn't vote,
I
that's
enjoyed
true.
being part of your show, because now I'm like, hey, I got to make up time. I got to get more people engaged, because it is important.
It is. And with that, Valerie, just let me give a couple shout outs. I want to thank you, Jack, for doing that. And to Sal and Stacy and Ward and Mona as our communications director. And a special shout out to Rocky in the chat room. I mean, we've got a team that's trying to move the needle here. And I believe, and you too, Valerie. I mean, you're on the radio with Rod.
I am, and I do it for the same reason.
I do too, and I mean, there's been several times where I had to readjust because I can only take so much. Well, it's not that I can only take so much stress. I will only allow so much stress into my life at my juncture with being on this planet, being where it is. I'm not putting up with a whole lot of bullshit, man. Let me just tell you that right now.
We have to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first.
That's right. That's right. So
right.
Thanks for calling. Any final comments?
The only final comment I wanted to make was briefly about business in America, and that is that SoulCycle and all these American companies now are getting challenged for supporting Trump. And it's a whole other issue coming up. Where are they trying to silence our businesses as well?
Of course.
And I think this is a very interesting topic to bring forward, with maybe Mona getting a really good business person on the phone to talk about business in these liberal cities that are being hacked at the neck, as you say, for just saying, I support the president. I love America. We have to stop buying China. We have to stop buying all these other companies and support our own country. But they're trying to take down the very people who are successfully running businesses in our country. And this really infuriates me, because I've been a victim of that myself. And it's just my personal story. But I just wanted to bring that up, and I thank you guys for taking my call. And I will speak to you soon.
All right, Valerie, thank you very much for calling, and you have a great weekend in Florida.
You too.
And she's absolutely right. We have to, you have to put your money where your mouth is. And my wife,
she's
wife
talking about the instant boycott of the Cycle Group and another entity, when one of the part owners of one of those companies was holding the fundraiser for the president for re-election. And that came out, and all of a sudden, bam!
Right.
You had all these folks in Hollywood saying, we're going to go to the library.
You know how you can tell that we're winning, Jack? What was voted the number one fast food establishment in America this year?
Chick-fil-A.
That's right. That's right. We are bigger than they are. They are smaller than we are. And by God, get off your butt and have some intestinal fortitude and get out there.
Right. Get out on your own 2 feet. Don't be sitting there stargazing and taking the word of people that are out there in Hollywood or on television, or especially CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, and even to a certain extent, some folks on Fox News Channel.
A lot of folks on Fox News Channel.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of information out there. Use your brain. Go out there and search the information out. Find the truth and put your own decision together. And when you do that, you'll find out that you're being lied to 24 hours a day.
And if you really want to look at ABC. They put out and bragged, actually, about Biden's overflow crowd. He had about 20 people.
Oh, my goodness.
At a New Hampshire event. Have you watched this train wreck, man? I actually feel sorry for this guy, man. I do. I think that, anybody in the Biden family, stand this guy down, man. Take him out of the spotlight. All he's going to do is show you the destruction of the life that he's lived.
I'm telling you, I've written it in the chat room many times. I think they are setting him up to look like a failure. And you already know that the rest of the group are failures.
They're all failures.
They're setting it up to where the newly $15 million Martha's Vineyard property owning Big Mike and her husband, the former president of the United States, she will just say, "Oh, you made me do it. You made me do it."
Coming. She's coming, and we're going to destroy her too.
But I'm telling you, when she comes up there,
I told you first. Now, I said this a year ago, and everybody thought I was crazy.
No, that you know that.
I know.
You know that. That's what's coming.
I do know that. And if it's not going to be her, it's going to be Oprah.
If you're going to say I have to give you credit, I'll give you credit, but I don't remember that. All I know is in my mind, I'm saying, why is this Democratic campaign looking so weak? That's because they're setting up somebody.
They all suck. There's not a single Democrat. There's not a single Democrat out there that has no fire, man. There's no fire anywhere. They are living a lie, and we've been saying for 10 years they've been living a lie, and sooner or later it's going to come back to bite them, and it might be in 2020, and I hope even more. What's even more important in 2020, ladies and gentlemen, is 2024. That's what we have to start looking at, because, and I am grossly overconfident. I'll admit that. But this kind of thing does not last unless it's sustainable.
No, it needs to be down into the Congress.
8 years,
it can't be just president.
No, 8 years of Donald Trump is not going to do it, folks. It has to be longer than that.
You have to elect a Congress that's willing to fix the immigration
laws.
Or
at the very least, a president that can move you toward that. If you can't, and this is the unfortunate truth, incumbents are 90% reelected in the United States of America. It's the way it is, because people are asleep. But we have to have somebody that can carry this guy's legacy, and who knows what the legacy is going to be by then. But we'll see, for sure. Let's talk about.
They lost the House. You know why? Because of the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan.
Right.
That's why.
Mm-hmm.
And all the bailouts, right?
Yeah, the bailout that are still happening. That are still happening in Texas. And I want to hear from Alan West. I've got to plug in with Mona to try to get him on here. I want to hear. He's got a good theory about that and how to defeat it. But right now, let's go to Scaramouche. Dude, this dude has lost his mind, man.
Let's bring in one of America's newest never-Trumpers. Says he was wrong to support the president, now wants to do whatever it takes to make it right. Former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci. It's good to see you.
Was that Fredo?
I'm not actually not a never Trumper, but that's fine. I mean, I just looking at the situation, and I would just tell your viewers, if you were on the board of a company and you had a CEO acting this erratic and literally in a gigantic meltdown like I was describing to John Berman, it's like a Chernobyl situation, you would have to replace that CEO. He's running the free world, and he's the leader of the greatest,
but you know what you guys
Republican
say,
democracy.
Anthony. You used to say this to me, and now his new defenders say it.
I'm not a never-Trumper.
But I'm saying I say never-Trumper because you're saying you don't want him to be in there anymore. You want another Republican. You want somebody else.
No,
but
we got.
Forget about the label.
You got to get rid of the guy.
Deal with the defense.
Whack.
They'll say, no, Anthony, you don't have to
ahead.
get rid of him. What you used to say is this, and what his defenders now say is this. He's just joking. He's living in your head rent-free. He's messing with you because he talks in a way that you guys can't handle. But he's about his results, and you want to attack his style. And all the while, he's doing everything he says, and you crazy people who can't handle his frankness, you get all upset, snowflakes.
I mean, we must be living in the Twilight Zone because you're like taking the other
Dead
side.
zone on
Let me
TV.
just say the following, okay? It's not even about that. Okay, he has gone past the bounds of normalcy on so many different things. But the number one thing and the breaking point for me was the full-on racism. And so I know I'm not going to use
Donald
that.
Trump is so
whether or not
racist.
he's racist, but when you're sending out the racist tweets and then you're piling on and you're standing there in El Paso with your finger up in the air like this in that detached way, it's a sign that he's gone full-blown crazy. And so as a responsible citizen in the United States, you can't look at all
Scaramucci's
of
like
that
Joey
stuff and say
Gallo.
it's okay. Moreover, we both know people inside the building that are whispering to each other that, okay, those guys are right. Are they going to come for our help? I mean, it's like a hostage crisis inside the building. They absolutely hate the guy's guts.
They hate the
but
guy.
they're
The
scared
guys that
out
work
of their
for him.
minds. Look at what he did to me and my wife this week. He's lighting me and my wife up on his 150 million Twitter social media / accounts. It's
Just what you
crazy.
wanted.
I'm a private citizen, Chris.
Which one is
He may
Fredo?
not have early stage dementia. but he
Fredo
has
on
full-blown
Fredo
early
crisis.
stage fascism. He's going after private citizens with the power of the president.
I'm smart.
it's
Well
for
aware.
this
Well,
and
I'm
it's
smart.
for
I'm not
reason
stupid.
Does it make it worth it to you?
That the red...
You're getting a little bit of a taste now of what the rest of us
I'll
have
throw
to
you
deal
down the
with.
stairs. No, I'm going to
He's got a
throw
lot
you
of
down
power.
the stairs.
And when he
I'm
tells his
totally fine.
people,
Hey,
you're crazy and you need to be attacked,
Hey,
it doesn't feel good.
okay,
Another
Chris,
awkward
you
moment.
and I are wired pretty similarly. We grew up in the same neighborhood,
We're
roughly,
Pizzos.
and we're wired the
Just
same way.
dead air
I'm a
again
very
on
resilient
TV.
guy. I mean, that
Scaramouche.
stuff is like nonsense to me. It washes right over me. At the end of the day, I reflect back all that stuff. I don't absorb any of that stuff. If people want to be dishonest on behalf of the president, and they want to twist themselves into an anti-end pretzel, and they want to lose their entire personal integrity and their life's personal history to try to explain what he's doing. I couldn't defend those racist tweets on Bill Maher that night. And so the very next night, he's coming after me and my family. This guy is a full-blown demagogue that needs blind obeisance as opposed to just traditional loyalty. And not only that, forget about all that. Just look what's going on. Exactly as I predicted. Once he gets hit a couple times, because he's a paper tiger bully, he just starts to unravel like a complete basket case. So this week, we're the chosen one, the king of the Jews. We're gonna stop a state visit to Denmark,
Anthony,
one of our allies.
Gotta mooch. Can you do the fandango?
Fascist. He's a fascist. Give me a break, man. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, your weekly jihad report. 18 jihad attacks, 54 killed, 71 injured, 2 suicide blasts, all occurring in 13 countries. The religion of peace atrocity of the week. Blood-soaked man shouting Allahu Akbar in Sydney, that's in Australia, ladies and gentlemen. CBD, Central Business District, attempts to stab multiple people, with one woman rushed to the hospital and another found dead with her throat slit in a nearby building. other recent misunderstandings of Islam, on the 21st in Mali, Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam Muslimin members ambush and kill 5 local security personnel. On the 18th in Afghanistan, 4 women and 5 children are among a dozen torn apart by a buried Taliban explosive. In the same country, on the 17th, a Fedayeen suicide bomber goes off in a crowded wedding hall, destroying over 80 Shiites. On the 16th, in Israel, a Palestinian drives his car into a group of Israelis, injuring 2 teens. In a new country, ladies and gentlemen, on the 14th, in Chad, a female suicide bomber slaughters a half-dozen bystanders. The religion of peace, ladies and gentlemen, one body at a time.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
I think that was the first time that we've ever done the weekly jihad report after the scheduled end of the program, Jack. That's a first.
Hey, we're only halfway through. Right?
I don't know about that. No, we're going to try
3
to
more hours. No,
we're going to try to wrap
Fridays,
this up.
Freeform Friday. That it's fun.
It is
there's
fun.
so much information.
It
Big
is.
news day. Great guest.
Good callers. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Now, there was a bizarre thing that happened this week. It actually happened yesterday. You had this guy named Patrick Byrne. He is the former CEO of Overstock.com, a self-described hippie. He came on with Martha McCallum last night, and I watched the entire interview. And although I will say I was a little bit impressed with the fact that at least he went to the Attorney General before he came on the TV. You know, everything that he said, he said that he already spoke to Bill Barr and Durham about this. So if he gets whacked, at least they already have the information. But it was clear to me watching this that he's not a real thoughtful person. Well, I shouldn't say that. He would be easily deposed by a defense attorney. Let's say it that way.
He's a tad eccentric.
There you go. Good explanation or illustration. Go ahead.
But reading this and watching it, I mean, because it's fun to watch the news cycle. Like, was it less than 2 weeks ago? The highest profile prisoner in federal custody, Epstein, committed suicide. Right? Boom. He
got suicided. Yeah.
Yeah, he got suicide. Broke his hyoid bone, a couple of vertebrae, and he did it by leaping off of the bunk bed and snapping his neck on his own.
All that.
But I digress. But at that point, I'm like, all right. Barr came out forcefully. He said, I'm going to demand an investigation that we can't have this, blah, 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 blah. But then I see earlier, I think it was yesterday, Barr's like, I'm satisfied with the finding that this man committed suicide. Even though we're having difficulty having cooperation of certain people that work within the prison answering our questions. I'm like, okay, this is already cover-up going on. So here comes Byrne. The funny thing with it, he's like, I came forward because I talked to Warren Buffett. If anyone knows that, he's like one of the, the billionaires. They put him on the list.
See, I bought that part. I bought that part just because of where he is, where Byrne is, in his life.
Byrne has been associated with Buffett since he was like in his teens.
Right, calls him his rabbi.
Right. I haven't seen anything where Buffett has corroborated his or denounced what he said, right? Because he basically said, I went to Buffett, and Buffett said, you need to go to the media immediately and get this all out there.
Right, but Buffett didn't have any skin in the game. He was just...
No, it was just advice.
Yeah.
Because Byrne went to him and said, I did this. The FBI, and Buffett's like, well, if they did this and you went there and with the information, the Maria Butina and all this stuff, and you're worried about this, just, resign from your company, get away from that so you're not affecting that, and then go public with everything.
I believe everything he said. And now it's going to be, and I like that he did this because now Barr has to address it. Right? Barr has to address this. Oh yeah, but it doesn't matter.
The media are attacking him like he is the number one kook on the planet.
Right. And let's see what Barr says. Let's see what
Sarah Carter, who she's broken a lot of very key stories, involving the FBI and the collusion within our own government to go after President Trump. Her and I think John Solomon is another one, but she
and Tom Fitton, sure.
Yeah, with Judicial Watch, yes. She said she's been able to confirm that he, his meetings with Butina, that he went to the DOJ. So a lot of the background stuff that he's already laid out as far as, because basically what has happened is he was approached by this girl, Butina, and
a Russian agent,
a Russian
agent who is in prison, in federal prison right now doing 18 months. Good.
Yes. She approached him at a one of these places where he was doing his speech, and he immediately, went to the FBI and said, "Wait, she's from Russia, blah blah blah," and he's trying to cover his ass, right? Should I meet? She wants to meet with me. I want to.
And then you look at it, Jack, and when you listen to the context, or not the context, but when you listen to the content of the interview, this guy has been involved with ratting people out for like his whole life.
Yeah.
That's the part that gets me. How did he get, this is an entrepreneurial guy, and
Overstock.com, right? A big place.
But he's involved with these, he says that he brought down 100 people from Wall Street, and then there was another instance where, he did this for law enforcement, and now then this comes up, and I'm okay with it, but I'm just an interesting life for a hippie.
But, he's an eccentric guy that was tied with Warren Buffett, who we all know is a multi-billionaire who can move markets based on who he buys, right?
Except for the solar panel markets didn't work out too well. But other than that, yeah.
Yeah. But he's under the wing of that, so... And then that's his mentor. That's the guy he goes to when he's discussing this. So he comes out. And what really pissed me off today was watching the news when they were reporting on this, because he went on a couple of other places, right? But I was watching Fox News this afternoon, late afternoon, and you had FBI guests that I had never seen before, people that that are supposedly, tried and true, blue
Strzok Juniors.
Boom. Basically saying this guy is a kook.
Yeah, Stroke
There's
Juniors.
no way the FBI would do anything like this. And when he said that, I was like, "Are you got to be kidding me?"
Yep, I know.
We went through, the evidence that Tom Fitton and Judicial Watch has exposed on what these people have done And to have this FBI guy, former FBI agent, say there's no way the FBI would ever do what this guy's saying.
The FBI at this point in time, the FBI should be disbanded. It should be disbanded completely. It absolutely should. We need to start over. I mean that, and it's sad because I know
not there.
I know several FBI agents, and they're all pussies. Every one of them is a pussy. They will not come out against anything about their drunk ass bureau, and until that changes, I just think they should just get rid of it. I think the FBI was a failed institution from the very beginning. If it wasn't for the FBI, Jack, did you ever wonder how machine guns got banned? And I'm not a super gun nut. I just understand what the Second Amendment means. And the Second Amendment means that you don't give the government more powerful weapons than the citizens have. And we allowed that to happen in the 1930s under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the worst president in American history. We allowed it to be banned. And now you have people that are full-grown adults and serious people that say, well, of course, you can't have automatic weapons in a free society. You just cannot.
You had one of the Tommy machine gun, the Thompson, right?
Yeah.
The war, it was developed, but it was developed just a little bit too late to be implemented because it was supposed to be the savior of our folks in the ditches in World War One. But
it was the trench sweeper.
Right. It was a selected one,
and then the Irish started using it.
They got all these produced weapons. The war's over, and who bought them? The smartest people in the United States at the time.
You're damn right. That's exactly right. Because the government did some dumb stuff.
Yeah, they didn't want it. They're like, no, we don't want to buy it. The war's over. We ain't going to buy them.
Yeah, but they tried to ban whiskey. They tried to tell Americans, oh, you can't drink anymore.
Right.
Even though the Scotch Irish were, and the Italians, that was the country at the time. And this is what we did. In Appalachia, they said that the Germans built churches and the English built schools and the Scots-Irish built distilleries. And then when it was time to go to war, who went to war? The Scotch-Irish.
Yep.
Not the Germans and not the French. No, the Scotch-Irish, my people, went to war and saved all these people from the Indians first, from the Comanches. Have you ever looked at the history of the Comanches? You think the Taliban's bad. You think the Muslims are bad. The Comanches were monsters. And the Scotch-Irish from Appalachia defeated them. I'm in Seneca country right now because we defeated them too. Anyway, I don't know where I went with that, but I went there.
We love a little dive into history, There's not enough of that taught these days.
You're right. Now, on a good note, and our final note, the feds have subpoenaed 20 officers at the Manhattan prison where Jeffrey Epstein died. This is a good thing. And this is where, if Attorney General Barr is the man that I pray to God that he is, he knows we have to get to the truth. The Fed subpoenaed at least 20 officers at the MCC in Manhattan, where Jeffrey Epstein was found hanging in his prison cell of a suicide. The correctional officers received the grand jury subpoenas as part of the DOJ's investigation into the breakdown of prison policy at the MCC that led to the death of the highest profile prisoner in the U.S. system. Man, if they get away with this, Jack, I'm giving up. And you know I'm not really gonna, but...
Yeah, I mean, it makes it very difficult, right? Because like I said earlier, Barr already came out and said, despite the difficulty with witnesses, right? They're all lawyered up. People that work in there, they're all lawyered up. Despite all of this going on, he said, I am fine with the conclusion of the medical examiner, which basically means that's a broom sweeping this under the rug. It doesn't matter how much investigation is going on,
because a lot of them, and I hope Barr's not one of them, but a lot of these people, they try to save the integrity of the institution. The institution is sick, people. It doesn't need to be saved.
Right. It was the
it
guys
needs
that
to be
were guarding
carved out.
One of them wasn't even a guard. He was a former guard. They, brought him in. They couldn't even afford to keep 24-hour watch on him without putting people on overtime. I think, what are they, understaffed by 30, 40%?
Yeah, it's nuts.
What's going on?
Right. I would ask you, ladies and gentlemen, I want to appeal to the audience here, and I know it's a vast audience. And again, if you're listening by via podcast, please email me, scrtv@live.com, because I can interact with my live audience in real time. But I want to, you are, it's going to piss my people off. You guys are bigger than the live audience. And I want to hear from you. I want to know what you're thinking, and I want to know your story. So please send me an email at scrtv@live.com, or you can call 412-567-1460. 412-567-1460. That's my Skype number. I think it's still active. And I'll play your voicemail on the show.
Nice.
But I really want there's a guy out there, and he did 30 years in the government, 20 some years as a correction officer at Marianne, Illinois, which at the time was the Supermax prison before Colorado came out, that replaced Alcatraz. And he has a lot of good insight on that. And I'd like you to go to his website or his YouTube channel, As the Key Turns, or his Facebook page, facebook.com, As the Key Turns, and tell him that you heard about him from Cold War Radio, and I'd love to get this guy on the show.
Yeah, that'd be a great guest.
Please go to his station, As the Key Turns, on YouTube, and facebook.com/As the Key Turns, and ask him to come on Cold War Radio. Give him my email address, scrtv@live.com. I've talked to him a couple times, because I always try to attribute people's content to them, and I did that with him, and he thanked me for it, about some of this Epstein stuff, because he knows, man. He's a subject matter expert. This guy moved to a third world country, Jack. Probably Costa Rica. I don't know where he is, but he's his videos.
Oh, he checked out of the United States, huh?
Yeah, he checked the hell out. Yeah, he was lucky to get out. I mean, I'm gonna tell you what, man. I mean, they'll throw you under the bus. Look what they did. He predicted that they were going to throw those two guards under the bus, and they did it. At the MCC.
They did it. They moved the warden to some unspecified place, right?
Yeah, she got over.
He or she did her job, and she allowed whatever to happen to happen.
That's it. What you just said. They did her job. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, Jack, we got to roll, man. We got to roll. It's time for winners and losers, man. Winners and losers, you're on.
Winners happened this week. We had the guest on, Miss Mendoza, talking about immigration. The Trump administration once again putting something into action to try and stop this influx of illegal immigration into the country. Like we talked, it's going to be challenged by the courts and whatever, but at least we have a president and the folks in his administration willing to do anything to try and stop this while our Congress goes on vacation and does nothing to solve failed laws that they passed. All right. So that's my winner, President Trump.
Let's go to the losers.
The loser, the New York Times
good
response to their political editors, Tom Wright Piersanti, the response to his Twitter history, where this guy is about as racist as you can get, anti-Semitic as you can get, pointed out by, I think, Breitbart and a couple other websites, deep dove into Tom Wright Piersanti's Twitter history. And the last I heard, the New York Times response was, we got it. We're going to decide what to do at a later time. And, you know, what that means is, damn it, they caught us again. But if it was anybody else, don't you think that the racist, which was Russia, entity would be all over it, like
white on rice, maybe?
Something on rice. White on rice. Yeah, you got me. But yeah, so that's my loser. New York Times, the failing New York Times.
All right, my winners and losers, ladies and gentlemen. My winner, American manufacturers with intestinal fortitude. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have some balls, now's the time to expose them. Get out there and make your investments, understand that cheap energy abounds, and start making stuff that the Chi-Coms made previously. You can make them better. You will win. My loser, the globalist traders. And I have to say that most of them are Republicans. Pat Toomey, I'm talking to you. You people are the worst of the worst. I can't stand you much more than I could stand Dianne Feinstein and Schiff and all the rest of the people that at least have the balls to identify themselves as the communist leftists that they are. I want to thank everybody for listening to the program. I would love to hear the stories from people that download the program because I never get to hear you guys. I hear my live listeners all the time, and I love them. But I want to hear from more people that listen to the podcast just because I want to know what your story is. Jack, your final comments, and how can people get in touch with you?
Hey, you can get in touch with me by tuning in on Friday nights, or Freeform Friday of Cold War Radio. I'm always here. Had a blast as always. I could just, continue on, but I know we got to let the folks go. Great callers, great guests. I can't wait till next Friday.
All right, well, thanks for coming on, brother. You did another great job, as usual. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. on just about all platforms. We got a great guest coming up on Monday night, General Spaulding from the National Security Council. That's going to be good. Had a great guest tonight. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And please share the show with your neighbors and others. SCRTV at live.com. Please go to steelcityresistance.com and become a Cold War Radio patron. Maybe we'll get a correspondent in Europe or something. I don't know.
Hey, get your beautiful lawns mowed.
There you go.
Vote for that Democrat.
You can do that too.
Open the borders, baby.
Got to open those borders. Some arepas. We got to get some Venezuelan arepas. Did you ever eat an arepa? Man, that's some good stuff. I'll tell you what.
Oh, they're wonderful. Latin foods are wonderful. I mean, I have nothing against those people, but I have something against our representatives that are trying to shove illegal movement into our country. You know?
And I'm a big fan of indoor plumbing. Indoor plumbing is a good thing. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for letting us into your life for a couple 3 hours. Messes the whole thing up, but hey, that's what it is. God bless, ladies and gentlemen.
Tennessee Bell.
Catch you on Sunday. Understand. WHBJ Digital Talk. Sunday Night Talk Radio. Listen to A Radio, Steel City Resistance, True Crime Historian, and who knows what else. Go to rsbn.bandcamp.com. Support Jacob Seals in the background. All right, man, I'm out of here. God bless.